Week 8 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few defense DST units I look to start this week. The first one, the New York Jets. So this Jet team, we know one of the tougher defenses to score on, and they've played well versus great quarterbacks this season. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. So now coming off the bye week and getting DJ Reed possibly back in the secondary and Sauce Gardner is a great thing. And now they got a great matchup versus the Giants here that give up the most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. So the last few weeks here for the Jets, week 4 versus Kansas City, 23 points allowed, a sack, 2 interceptions, a safety. Week 5 at Denver, 21 points allowed, 4 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries in that one with a safety and a return fumble recovery touchdown. A week 6 versus Philly, 14 points allowed, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions, a fumble recovery. So right now this week, we don't know if it's going to be Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor for this New York Giant team. But to be honest, I don't think it matters. This Giant team, one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Even though Thomas, one of the better linemen in the league, is possibly going to come back in this game. And we know this defense is going to be amped up in a New York versus New York game where you get it every 4 seasons at MetLife Stadium. So right now we know they both share the same stadium. Possibly could be 50-50 Jet Giant fans in this one. But this Jet defense is getting healthy. And like I said, have shut down good quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be a problem at all that they could shut down Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if this Jet team could finish the week as the top scoring defensive fantasy. The next DST is the Detroit Lions. So the Lions, they got torched and destroyed, no doubt about it, in that Week 7 game at the Baltimore Ravens. But this defense has a good matchup to get right versus the Vegas Raiders. I give up the 11th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. So right now, if it's Jimmy Garoppolo, Hoyer, or Aiden O'Donnell, I don't think it matters at all, to be honest. This is a turnover machine offense. I know they got good weapons, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs out of the backfield, and Jacoby Myers, who's really emerged in his first season here with this Vegas Raider team. But I think this team, they're going to get back on track. They would play way better at home as Detroit than they do on the road. And this offensive line as well was pretty poor for this Raider team. We just saw the Chicago Bear team tee off on them. So right now, I think this line team, they get back to the basics in this one. Hutchinson, one of the best pass rushers in the league. I think he gets to whoever starts at quarterback a few times for this Vegas Raider team. And their defense, that's going to be dropped in tons of leagues after that horrible performance. But I have confidence in starting this Detroit team this week as a top 10 option. The next DST I would start the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, one of the best DSTs this season. And they've taken advantage, obviously, of some poor quarterbacks and bad offensive line play. So they've gone out there and they've played great football as this Raven team. Week 6 at Tennessee, 16 points allowed, 6 sacks, an interception, a fumble recovery. And Week 7 versus Detroit, like I mentioned, they teed off, 6 points allowed, 5 sacks, and an INT. So Week 8 here, good matchup at Arizona, where their offense is decimated this season. Kyler Murray, I doubt he plays in this game, even though there is a possibility he can. But even if he does, I think they can limit him in this one in his first game back. And this team, they get to the quarterback. They hold the offenses down for the most part to a decent mid-teens, low 20s the majority of the season. And I know this game's in Arizona, but with that fast track, I think this defense could get quicker, and they're going to make plays in this game. So right now, Baltimore playing great football this season on the defensive end of things. And once again, with a good matchup with no James Conner, most likely no Kyler Murray, and them focusing in on sacking the quarterback and Joshua Dobbs. I have them as a start this week. The next start starts the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins, I know they had a tough game at the Philadelphia Eagles, even though this defense came out and they actually put up some fantasy points in that one. 31 points allowed, 3 sacks, an interception, and a pick 6 touchdown in that one. So this week here, great matchup versus the Patriots. I give up the second most points to DSTs on the season. And we saw this season, this Miami team have good games versus poor offenses in terms of fantasy points. So this week here with a good matchup, division matchup as well, where they got to get to the quarterback early and often, and possibly Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey could be back. Nice combo to have in the secondary, where these two corners, in my opinion, 2 of the top 10 corners in the league. So right now with a good matchup versus New England and a division matchup they need going back to week 2 in New England. They played a good ball game in week 2 and had 9 fantasy points in leagues. I think this Miami defense could go out there, they could have a good game once again, and they need this victory. So if they get Ramsey and Howard back, I think they can lock down this Patriot offense, which obviously has trouble finding that true number 1 wide receiver, even though Kendrick Bourne has been solid this season. And the 5th and final defense DST unit I look to start this week is the Los Angeles Chargers. This Charger defense, I know they're one of the worst in the league in terms of stopping the pass and teams going up and down the field, but in terms of getting the quarterback and making plays. You got Khalil Mack, you got Joey Bosa if he plays in this ball game, and they got a great matchup versus a Bear offensive line that's one of the worst in the league. You got Tyson Beckett, the rookie quarterback who was undrafted, starting in this one, even though he looked pretty decent, even though I know it was the Vegas Raiders defense in last week's game. So right now I think they could get to Beckett early and often. Sunday Night Football, this Charger team, they got to get off the schneid after losing the last two games to the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think they could take advantage of the young quarterback and the weak offensive line. So right now is a streaming option and a team that could finish in the top 10, 12 in fantasy points at the position. I have them to start this week, so that's a few defense DST units I look to start in week 8 of the fantasy football season.